poet and scholar, Professor Jerome McElroy. My last poem, if it can be called that, was published in my high school magazine, Old Testament. Clearly, I'm ill-equipped to properly introduce our poet this evening, yet the honor was too special to decline. We are here to listen to Jerry McElroy read some of his poems, especially from Hidden Graces, a chapbook of poetry that has just appeared hot off the press. At my count, and I'm still counting, Jerry has published more than 140 poems, mind-boggling. Poems that have been recognized by judges and editors as deserving of publication. For one of his previous chapbooks, I wrote this: Poet Jerome McElroy sees what we don't see, and he shares with us sparkling images which bring alive transcendent realities that lift up the heart and the mind. McElroy's poems remind me of Jared Manley Hopkins' sense of inscape, unquote. Spanish poet Juan de la Cruz wrote that for God to gaze is for God to love. Poets like Jerry McElroy see so deeply into people, things, and events that they discover that they love what they see. They know that everything that is good and true and beautiful. Wouldn't the world be ever so much more congenial were there many more poets like Jerry McElroy? My friends, Jerry McElroy, our very own poet.
To do is I'd like to call this address Wings and Roots. So I want to start off and read some of the wings. And these are the poems from the book. Then Roots tries to answer the question, where did these poems come from in me, in my experience? And I'm going to start off with the definition of poetry that I think you can agree with. For me, life-giving poetry is sourced in emotion, in rhythm, in images, and in mystery. So what I'm going to try to do in the last half of the talk is uncover through poetry some of the things I think that have contributed to the wings I've had with this latest chapbook. So I want to start off with two poems about Mary. They both deal with the Annunciation. The first one is simply called Maria. Her untouched yes fissured ice and shook the earth, resurrecting prelapsarian footfalls in the garden, bending helix-like the arc of human hope toward home. The print of her lips in air, a dazzling aureole, Gabriel remembers still. So that's a look at Mary, but with a hint that Gabriel's in this game too. So the next poem is called The Annunciation. One aspect of the poem is to compare the descent of Gabriel to visit Mary as someone going skin diving. And I think all of us who've been skin diving can say the first time you went, it was just mind-blowing. So, this second poem is really more about Gabriel. Like a neophyte's first dive beneath the surf inside the reef, Gabriel was blown back fast by the startling rainbow spray streaming from her lovely face. The topaz glory of his presence totally eclipsed against the dazzling fire inside her skin no eye on earth had ever seen before. To me, this is quite pregnant with meaning, because he's seeing Mary, and I guess his theology was, we were at the top of the heap, but now here's Mary. So anyway, it was as if he hadn't left the firmament of heaven. When she spoke her words broke a tidal wave of ocean breakers, almost shaking Gabriel off his pins again. From above, it was like the early cardinal's clarion chime, splitting through the brooding sky with a thunderclap of joy, rinsing winter's world awake with the warm breath of spring. When the echo slowly soaked through the caverns of the deep, seeping in the bloodlines of the choral universe, the spark of eternal hope surfaced without aftershock, and the angel floated home to contemplate his descent, to recollect and retrieve his lost equilibrium.
I think a good poem is like a good essay. It should have a strong opening, a strong body, and then a punch at the end. Here's a poem that's like that. We lived overseas for 10 years, and we missed the fall. And this poem is about the colors of autumn. There's a day in late October when it's cold and there's no breeze and the leaves fall. And that's about this day. I'm looking out the window at St. Mary's at the front, at the trees on the front line road. And it's around noontime, and there's heat kind of waving up from the ground. This poem is called Equilibrium, and the spark in this poem is in the fall, when trees, when they get golden, the sky is never so blue. And that's the spark in it. It's called Equilibrium. On October's windless leaf-down day, the glow from golden canopies, bleached by wisdom's alchemy, fires the heavens cobalt, like no other season's blue. Down the brace of sugar maples bone black after early rain, crimson Sicilian showers paint the sky for hours, till the flecked vermilion air shimmers through the noonday heat, initializing in mid-aura that same prelapsarian print that Adam must have felt when he woke awash in wonder. So once again, those 3 points, a strong opening on October's windless leaf-down day, and then some good images. The crimson Sicilian showers paint the sky for hours, and then the punch. And the same print that Adam felt when he woke awash in London.
And this next poem is a winter poem, and it celebrates a moment when my son and I, Chris, we were walking on St. Mary's path, and we saw a doe, and he was startled and stopped. And the trick in the poem is to try to capture how still this doe could be. Transfiguration. A downy doe in fresh snow, still to bone, behind birch bark, pins me to the cattle path like a frozen mannequin in stride. So we were stilled. The lace of copse frames her sideways face in stone. Her motionless camouflage defines oblivion. But she's so close, her back hairs bend in breeze. Her left eye sparkles under passing stratus patches. Her panting even echoes in the air. Suspended in her splendor, I taste eternity till she bolts brush, breaks sacrament, and my heartbeat stops. So I just want to mention her left eye sparkles under passing stratus patches. This for me was amazing. It was a clear day, and around 2 o'clock, and so there was the sun, but there was these stratus clouds going by, and you could see the movement in her eye. I just thought, you don't want to miss that. But that was the first season, the season of the nature poems. The next season is some poems about the farm. I used to spend my summers with my grandfather in the country in southern Illinois. His boys had gone off to college, and they didn't want to stay with the farm. So I think this is where I really learned a bit about nature. So the first one is called The Ancient Ritual. One of the worst jobs I've ever had was hoeing corn in the cornfields. Now, when you grow corn, you can cultivate corn with the tractor until it gets about this high. When it gets higher, there's no way the tractor can go through there. So the most farmer would say, well, forget about it. Let the weeds grow, but not my grandpa. So we would go and hoe in the cornfields. I was about 10. I could do 2 rows. He could do 4. He was 65. So this is about that terrible job. Before the Giants' combines came, summers in the backlands rolled with a rhythm all their own. We threshed the wheat and oats from stooks that browned in June, and left the berries for July between the clover and alfalfa. In the lull before the harvest, the August seemed an ancient passage, when Grandpa and I, in summer's highest heat, would weed the high corn fields. With bare hoe in hand, he spoke of Bible folk and red sky rain, and what made age-old family enmities subside. In bed at night, I listened. I forgot my unstrung shoulders, the facial slits the blades inflicted, the thirst so deep my skin drank dust. Proud that I knew more than gypsum wheat and butterprint. I knew why the neighbors slowed to feel the earth aright again when they passed by Grandpa's place. So you can see a road, and you're driving by the road, and there's the cornfield, and each row is clean as a whistle. That was what they did with the Lathers.
It's this one right here. And in the broken seasons, between one season and the next, there's always something that's new and fresh to come. It's a new beginning, and for me, it's always a time of energy. So I hope that you can find some of these sense images. While I watch a wild alert for the promise flaring at the stratus edge of sundown, just before the shades of night erase the final spray of fire, I can touch a season's seams in moments that define the bounds of time and clock the axis of the earth. I can see the myrtle warbler only once, winging westward toward the river rim, and know in late October that the roll is on again. And so this is the beginning of the seasons. I can feel the hunching of the night the instant after winds and leaves are spent, crouching down and cowered before an unexpected snowfall. I can surprise a hardy crocus underfoot, dodging sidewalk thaw, while behind the turf print echoes up my shanks. I can taste the familiar summer flavors through the kitchen screen before the broadcast of a thunderclap cuts the crust of April loose. When these sacramental cracks open broken seasons, I slide between the slip I am and the sweep I could become.